Hey gang, Blunty here, and while this is going slower than I'd originally planned, I'm still working on a video feature for each and every one of these 4 Soviet-era Russian lenses that were very generously gifted to me by a viewer. I've already published my look at the Jupiter 11 back in December, and now it's time to look at the Jupiter 3. So, first a bit of history and heritage. The Jupiter 3 was produced from the late 1950s right through to the mid-1980s, and like the others here, it's an M39 screw mount commonly found on classic Leica rangefinder bodies, but also highly adaptable to today's mirrorless cameras. And the main attraction of the Jupiter 3 is how fast it is. It's a classical 50mm lens, but it opens right up to f1.5. Now, at the end of World War II, the Russians ended up with the designs and many materials from the exceptionally wonderful optics of Zeiss, and that is where the heritage of this Russian lens sits. In fact, it's a copy of one of Zeiss's most famous old lenses, the sonnar, originally introduced in 1932. There are many variations of the Jupiter 3 out there. All have the same basic optical design, but there can be some physical and cosmetic differences in the construction, including versions with different lens coatings or simply different body construction and color. The design features 7 lens elements in 3 groups, aperture from 1.5 to f22, focusing is from 1 meter to infinity, and while it's badged as a 50mm lens, its exact focal length is actually just shy of 52.5mm, plus or minus 1% according to the specs from Zeiss. This particular copy seems to be from 1975. It features a black metal body and is the most recent version of the Jupiter 3 that was ever produced. Now, buying these old lenses can be a bit of a Russian roulette, if you'll excuse the hilarious pun. Some are better than others, but most, so long as they've been taken care of, are wonderfully enjoyable to shoot with, and the Jupiter 3 is no exception. And luckily for me, this lens was taken care of. Once I'd cleaned it up with some care and patience, I found that the optics here were nearly perfect. There is a slight amount of dust and lint that has made its way inside of the lens, but it doesn't seem to have affected image quality at all, so I'm calling it a win. The focus and aperture rings both spin very smoothly and consistently with no catches or hitching. Very, very happy boy here. And a note on the aperture ring, by the way, it's completely stepless and smooth, which means you'll never really know precisely what aperture it's set at, especially at the high end where the markings get very close to each other. But it's a wonderful thing for those of you who like to shoot video, because of course that means you can adjust your aperture very smoothly on the fly. So let's take a look at what else I've been sucking in through this almost 40-year-old lens based on an 80-odd-year-old Zeiss design. In use, the Jupiter 3 is, it's kind of amazing actually. If you use it wide open, you get a soft, beautifully old-school organic glow with subtle contrast and rich velvety colours. But shut it down even just a little bit and you can keep that smooth liquidity of the outer focus areas, but suddenly it becomes crispy and punchy and sharp. Colours can become vibrant and rich, and even shooting digitally as I was, the blur is very, very film-like. It's soft with just a little bit of texture in there, and with a slightly ring-like bokeh ball that is one of the markers of lenses from this 1930s Zeiss lineage. Under bright sun, it can be almost explosively punchy, and shot wide open, and in low light, tones become deliciously velvety again. I've never used a lens quite like this. So much character and range. It's almost like it has moods of its own. It's like a living thing. Some of these shots have such different character to them, I'd say they were shot on completely different lenses, if I hadn't shot them myself. I mean, it's not unusual, even on modern lenses, for them to get sharper and punchier in the middle of their aperture range, but I can't name any lens that can shift its mood this dramatically between f1.5 and f4. It makes the Jupiter 3 not only a powerful creative tool, but a kind of breathlessly exciting toy to play with also. And even despite the wonderful colour rendering it's capable of, I found myself really loving what the video looks like, shot in the day, shot wide open, and shot in black and white. You wind up with this lovely, classic-looking, mid-contrast, wonderfully tonal image. And this was just straight out of camera using my Olympus OM-D's built-in monochrome filter mode. The Jupiter 3 gobsmacked me. A lens this spirited, this small and light, this fast, this crisp, this flexible. It's bewilderingly joyful. And for all of these reasons and more, it is in fact one of the more sought-after Russian lenses. On eBay, you'll find copies ranging from about $150 all the way up to around $300. So it's not one of those wonderfully pocket change friendly classic lenses that you can pick up and play with, but for that kind of money it's still well worth the money in my opinion. And this one will be staying in my personal collection, no doubts about that. It is a keeper. Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I'll catch you next time. Hopefully it won't be so long between episodes of this particular little series next time. Still got 2 more of these to go.